a new month, a new week. Well, it is all now upon you to have that positive mindset so that you can be a conqueror and defeat whatever challenges may come your way as we gear up to the end of the year. We're now in November, just 1 month, and 2021 will be gone. So check your resolutions. How far have you gone? But for us here in Good Morning Uganda, I want to thank you for being part of us. I want to thank the Kasirinje family, Nelson and Nelly in Nalie, plus Mami Shalom. Thank you so much for watching UBC TV, and really appreciate that. Plus so many others that are with us every morning and our regular viewers. Today we are going to be discussing a very interesting issue as we aim to fight COVID-19 and of course prevent various variants from coming into the country. Government took over testing of COVID-19 at the airport, and that included people coming in to ensure that they are safe. Those that are positive find treatment and we avoid the spread of COVID-19. For the tourists, they can be tested, continue, get their results later on, and for other categories, wait. However, last week, much as it commenced on Tuesday, on Wednesday, the media was awash with a lot of complaints from people regarding the testing exercise. Now with me in studios to understand better and the status and what could have been wrong and how they have managed to rectify this is the Principal Public Relations Officer, Civil Aviation Authority, Kenneth Otim. Kenneth, you're most welcome to our studios this morning.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
My name is Kenneth Otim, as you have introduced me, and I work as a Principal Public Affairs Officer with Uganda Civil Aviation Authority.
Kenneth, to begin with, just give us the status at this entry point of Uganda, our international airport, where we saw not very interesting comments. So now that we have you, as of now, what is the status at the airport?
First of all, thank you for inviting me here and for the public to get to know what exactly is taking place at the airport. World over, the aviation industry is recovering from COVID because, you know, in 2019, end of 2019, 2020, COVID really affected the aviation industry, and the number of passengers really went down. We are just recovering in 2019. If you look at our numbers, we had almost 1.98 million passengers, international passengers. In 2020, our numbers really dropped to around 565 passengers. So it really affected us, and you know, aviation industry, our source of revenue is aeronautical. And if there are no people like you traveling, it means we're also not earning. The only thing that remained persistent was cargo. People couldn't travel, but at least they would order items. So our cargo volumes were maintained at around 59,000 metric tons, although the previous year in 2019 we had 64,000 metric tons. You would see that the volume of cargo slightly reduced, but at least we maintained it. So generally that has been the situation until now, when governments start emphasizing vaccination, airports open and people start traveling. Now, when people start traveling, of course, countries put into measures to guard against importing new variants. And that is what the government of Uganda has done to implement the mandatory testing at Entebbe International Airport for all incoming passengers. Previously, it has been emphasis on categories. Category 1, if you're fully vaccinated, you'd come into the country, but with also a negative PCR test. Then there were these countries from Category 2, India, South Africa, from South Sudan, whereby United Arab Emirates, whereby you had to come and still we took you to have a PCR test on arrival. Now, regardless of whether you have been in category 1 or category 2, it is now mandatory that every passenger that comes into the country, whether tourist, whether diplomat, whether Ugandan, you're entitled to go through a mandatory testing once you arrive at Entebbe International Airport.
Talking about mandatory testing, previously we had tests being carried out at the airport.
Yes.
Why government takeover? Let's understand this, because we had public-private partnership and it seems work was going on. Why do we see government decide to take over this?
Previously, the testing for incoming passengers was done by private labs at a beach called Penyo Beach there in Entebbe. So the complaints that we received from people, one, it was a lengthy process to facilitate passengers. You arrive at Entebbe International Airport, you're put in a bus, and you're taken out of the airport to the testing facility. Two, also the delays in releasing results. People would talk about 4 hours when they are there, waiting for results. Mosquitoes, because this is next to the lake flies. Some people were asthmatic. Entebbe is very cold at night. And lastly was the amount of money people were paying, which is the $65. And you find that somebody is going to Nairobi, you're required to have a PCR test going to Nairobi, you come back, you're required to take another test. So these complaints reached Cabinet and the COVID National Task Force. And government decided to have its own testing laboratory, which will be of a reduced cost and placed at a convenient place. So government assigned the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Nabanja Robina, and the National Task Force to come to Entebbe International Airport, do a research, practically ask the passengers who were being taken to the Penyo Beach what the experience was. Also come to the airport, see whether we have the facility where they can put this government lab. We had a series of meetings with many stakeholders to have their input, and finally it was decided that we put a mandatory testing facility operated by the Ministry of Health, which is government, at Entebbe International Airport. So the reasons I've given you prompted government to bring the facility at the airport. Yes.
Well, it wasn't a good start, we must say, because, you know, Entebbe, about 1,000 people transit. So it's a busy place. And what could have gone wrong? Because we didn't see maybe such a scenario when the private-public partnership was on. What really didn't work out?
You see, when it was being done by the private, if you go through the media, they also suffered the same. It was something new. They went through that. But with the time, people go on improving. So equally with the testing facility at the airport, we had to do a dry run with our own staff at the airport. We had to do a wet run with the categories 2 that were being taken to the beach. And we had now to do the real mandatory testing for all incoming passengers. But there are some challenges that you will not forecast before you really do the exercise. And this is what happened to us. NITAU Uganda, first of all, let me give you the agencies that are helping us in this exercise. This is owned by the Ministry of Health. They are the one really doing this exercise at the airport. But there are other partners that are working close with the Ministry of Health. For example, NITAU Uganda, providing us reliable internet. Post Bank, providing us the banking services. The National Planning Authority, providing us with our facilitation and stakeholder engagements. The Office of the Prime Minister, that has been key in linking us with government. Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, we the providers of the facility, the UPDF Engineering Brigade, which is trying to put up a bit of some construction activities at the airport. So there has been a lot of stakeholder engagement before this mandatory testing. However, when we started this testing on Tuesday last week, first of all, we had to put a NOTAM to inform our airmen of this mandatory testing starting Tuesday, which had to be a 48-hour notice. We also had to inform the airlines about because the airline would inform the passengers. But you see, it is something that we have started. Some people were not that aware. So awareness is what we are improving on. Because if somebody is coming to the country and is aware of requirements of that destination country, then they will be prepared. So on arrival, people will be like, yes, you have swabbed us. Then they will be told, please go to the waiting area. So they will ask, waiting area to do what? So when they reach there, they say, please pay for the swab you have taken. So they were used like going to Dubai, they swab you, you move. Now here, you arrive, they swab you, then they say, please wait for your results. And then also pay for the test you have taken. So it was something new to the passengers because they are used to coming, either if you're fully vaccinated, those were being left to go, but now here they come and they say, whether vaccinated or not, you go through a mandatory testing.
I think the issue here that was raised, Kenneth, yes, that could have been a bit of inconvenience, but more the issue of delayed results.
Yes.
That is what I think came out very clear in most of these reports that we are hearing. Delayed. Have you now handled the delay? What could have caused the delay? Is it lack of enough capacity, lack of ability to maybe take results and analyze them, then give them to the people?
Causes of this delay starts with a passenger. For example, if a passenger left the country they are traveling from, when they are aware of what to expect when they arrive at Entebbe International Airport, it will be very easy for us to manage. For example, they needed to register online, to fill a health form online. They also needed to pay their monies for the test online. Now, this information had not been fully given to passengers in that short time. So when they arrive at the airport, they had to fill in their health form. That is a delay. They had also to pay at the bank. That's a delay. And then they had to wait for results. Now, what were causing those delays? Also the internet connections. We had internet which was not very fast, and we had fiber cuts also causing this delay. So going through that, we are like, okay, if internet is off, what is our backup? If passengers are coming and taking a lot of time registering on arrival at Entebbe International, what then can we inform passengers and airlines? So you realize that day on, from the time we started, we are improving. We are very much improving. We are getting reliable internet. We are getting backup in case the internet is off. We are encouraging passengers to register online, that health form, and also register, pay their money online before they arrive at Entebbe International Airport. Now, we are not entering passengers' info manually, like on the first day we are doing. You only come and we scan your QR code and the information is registered. They take your swab, the laboratory receives that information, and within 20 minutes we expect you at the holding area, and within 1.5 hours results are processed and we start giving them out to passengers. So every time we are looking at what were the challenges and how we are improving. And I believe by end of this week, all these major challenges will be history. So we are trying to improve.
Is this a general practice within the aviation industry, or is it unique to Uganda? Because we know the world is competing for tourists, for business opportunities. One may not have a tourism visa. So for many opportunities, and maybe some of these could have an encumbrance to people choosing their destination. So is it only unique to us, or it's a global thing that a person who, even though they opt for another country, they'll still go through the same?
It is world over, because we have got people who have been traveling, for example, to Ghana. When you arrive in Ghana, you go through a mandatory testing, and by the way, for them they're even more expensive, around $150 for that mandatory PCR test. And then they request you to stay in a hotel nearby, where they send you these results. Well, if you're positive, then they will manage you psychologically and put you in a gazetted area. When you go to Dubai, on arrival you're tested, and results are sent to you, a passenger. When you go to UK, it's the same. So it's the same process. Now, the only difference with us in Uganda is that maybe the cost of following up our passenger to where they have traveled or their final destination might be a bit expensive for the ministry. So we decided, like, at least for the tourists, because when the tourists come into the country, they are registered with the Uganda Tourism Board. And equally, the tourists are not supposed to live in Entebbe in the 2 hours they have arrived. So they are put in a hotel, and then until confirming that their results are negative, that's when now we release them to go to the further destination where they are traveling. Otherwise, tourists stay in Entebbe until their results are released. So they have got a tourist desk which facilitates them. Now, for our citizens, the Ugandans, they are put into a holding area. That is our new modification building, and we try as much as possible to release results not exceeding 2.5 hours. Actually, 2.5 hours should be the maximum, but these results are released starting from an hour to 1.5, and maximum to 2 hours. So there are instances, like on Tuesday, what happened, that people waited for 3 hours. Why? Because of the internet connection failure to communicate from the communication from the swabbing to the lab was lost. So results also delayed. And remember, we are telling our passengers that results will be sent on your phones. Now, if there's no Wi-Fi, reliable Wi-Fi, we'll go manual and put results on the monitors from the lab information management system, which sends the names to our monitors. So, and when you see your name on the monitor, you go to the information desk to get your results. Now, that delays the process. However, if you give us your email address, your WhatsApp number, your telephone number, once the results are released from the laboratory, we send them straight to your phone. And once you get your results, you just show people who are manning our exit gate, and then you depart the airport. Yes.
We had issues of credibility.
Yes, yes.
We've had people coming to the country with fake COVID-19 test results. How are we guarding this as a country? Because between you and me, Kenneth, we know that most times when you go in issues of private, I mean public,
yes.
Sometimes you have these lapses. That is why we still have issues regarding corruption, where the private sector may be so keen to perfect their art. They look at the name of the company, the brand, and all that, which sometimes we've not seen government officers very, very keen towards that. So how are we guarding against this?
These cases of forged PCR certificates have been very few for incoming passengers, very few. But there has been many cases of forged certificates for passengers departing the country. But we have been receiving also positive cases So you wonder how somebody was given a negative PCR certificate, and on arrival, when we test them, they test positive. Cases received mostly have been from South Sudan. The positives, cases that we have received at the airport, and from Saudi Arabia, our girls returning. By the way, we have so many girls returning. I think something wrong is happening in United Arab Emirates and those Arab countries. So you find that these girls have lost employment with their bosses. Their bosses don't pay them their money on time, so they only pay for their ticket to come back to Uganda. This girl comes back at the airport. She has no other money, even no money to test, and those are cases that we are handling differently.
How do you handle such cases? Because I also look at anybody, it could not even be these girls, that if they didn't get prior information, because when I come into the airport, I'm swabbed and then I have to wait and I'm told to pay. So how do we manage this lack of finances? I will start with the girls returning. We normally treat them in a category that exempts them. So you see, at the end of the day, Post Bank Uganda will have to account for all passengers that came into the country. So we expect them to be having finances from all those passengers that came into the country. Now, they have to show why some money has not been collected. So we, for example, scan the passports of these girls. We enter their details and give a reason why they were unable to pay. So that at the end of the day, when an auditor comes, say, these returned, but they had nothing on them. That's the reason why this money is not being reflected. But there are these other persons who would come into the country and say, I don't have money. But when they have the money. So we normally tell them, you can call your people at home and they send you money. And you'll find that at the end of the day, they have paid the money. They will stay longer, but they will pay the money. And you can really tell somebody who is really lacking finances. They will stay at the airport for a long time. Who wants to stay at the airport for a long time, yet they want to go home? So the genuine cases, you find them that they will really show that they don't have money. They have been at the airport for more than 3 hours. And to avoid that congestion, there is a file that we have opened up, especially to help these girls coming back from United Arab Emirates, to register them, and then we leave them to go back home. But some of them are paying, but some genuinely don't have money to pay. That's how we are handling them. How do you handle those that test positive upon arrival? Because I think the aim of this is to ensure that we do not have new variants and also reduce the infection rate. So how do you handle this? This is a person who's been on plane, she's been on plane with people, and they could already have...
You see, people were asking us if I sat next to a patient, COVID patient on the plane, the risks, we are now talking about the risks. Now the system in the plane is that after 2 minutes, there is recycling of oxygen. Pulled out, new oxygen supplied. Okay? But when you are in a hall, many people, where there's no sucking out of oxygen and giving you fresh oxygen, of course the risk now becomes... So when we receive these positive cases, we isolate them. Remember, they have been seated with other people. So we are trying to ensure that even when we have these big numbers at the airport, the chair you're sitting on, the chair I'm sitting on, in between should be our trolley with our luggage, so that we meet the social distance of 1.5 meters apart. Okay? Now, once we identify you, we have an isolation center at the airport. First of all, we take you there. We psychologically talk to you so that you get to know that even being positive is not the end. And then we give you procedures on how we are going to transfer you to a government facility. That is mostly Nambole. But the person can prefer to have either to go to a private one. But when you decide to go to a private one, you meet your cost. However, if you go to our government facility like at Nambole or grade B in Entebbe, then government takes care of you for 7 days. Then again you're tested, and then that's when you're released from where you have been put. Yes.
Very interesting. We are still looking at, that is the mandatory COVID-19 testing at our international airport, that is Entebbe. So far, we were told that government will also ensure that at our various entry points, that is now those that come in by land, also we have this testing facility being installed there to ensure that we do not have people with COVID-19 enter our country and maybe bring in variants that we may not be having as of late. COVID manifests itself in various variants, and some are more lethal compared to the other. And this is what Uganda we're praying and guarding against. Kenneth.
Yes, please.
Still going back at the airport, one would wonder that much as government took over this, you talked about the differences in costs. So as of now, how much are people paying? And there are differences. Maybe this is a foreigner, this is a Ugandan coming back home. So what are the pricing advantages that this has come along with?
When we made the research, the minimum any country in the world is charging is not less than $50 for a COVID test. But government decided really to subsidize this cost for passengers. You see, when the president talks about opening up the economy in January, yes, we should open up the economy, but with a minimized risk of importing new variants. And now we are emphasizing vaccination for everyone. So we have to minimize the risk of importing new variants so that the economy can be opened up in January. So the cost of taking this mandatory test for only incoming is $30. When exchange to Uganda shillings, it's around 110,000 Ugandan shillings. And I think it has been a very great deal for passengers, because you feel some of them asking, why can't you also do the same for us who are departing? So a cost of a kit that tests for COVID is around $22. So the $8 or $7 of this cost of a kit is maybe to run our administrative operations at the airport, meet bills for utilities, meet the bill for utilities, and also to ensure that the facility is clean. So basically $30 is at the lowest, and it is for all incoming passengers, whether tourists, whether Ugandans. So we did not decide to put it high for tourists or Ugandans, no, but it's the same cost running across. The only difference, like what people have been talking about, is why allow the tourists to go and why retain the Ugandans. But that one I've explained, that even the tourists are kept within Entebbe. And who is a tourist? That one who is registered with the Uganda Tourism Board. You can be a tourist, yes, maybe you have been into Uganda several times, but if you don't register with the Uganda Tourism Board, we shall treat you like any other passenger coming into the country. And we shall hold you up until your results are released. Only those persons who are registered with the Uganda Tourism Board as tourists are going to be treated as tourists.
Well, I want to thank you so much. In the interest of time, let me just have your final remarks to Ugandans and of course to the travelers, those planning to come in, whereby Wednesday there was so much regarding that. So what is your final message to those whose destination is Uganda?
My final message to passengers coming to Uganda is that they should be aware of this mandatory testing when they arrive at Entebbe International Airport, but we want to request our passengers to register online. You should visit our website, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, and there are 2 links on our website. When you visit our website, there is what we call COVID updates. When you click on that main COVID updates, there are notices. Now you'll find our NOTAM. That NOTAM has got a link for the health registration, which is arrivals.healthdesk.go.ug. So you register your details online regarding your health. And also there is also a link for payment online, which is covidpay.postbank.co.ug. So once you register that health form online and also pay online, when you arrive in the country, it becomes very fast for you to be processed through the testing and release of your results. So that's what we are emphasizing, that people should register. Actually, it should be a mandatory requirement for airlines before they put you on board. You have registered online, so that when you arrive in Uganda, it's a very fast process to process you through port health, the other airport requirements to your final destination.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Kenneth Tim, who happens to be the Public Affairs Officer, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, for the time and of course that lengthy explanation. Uganda is a safe place to be, and of course whatever were hiccups when you had just begun this on Tuesday have been dealt with. We've got an assurance, so please feel free to come to Uganda. It will be expeditiously done, the COVID-19 testing, but also, like he said, ensure that you register and pay online so that it's a smooth sail when you're finally home. I just want to remind you, COVID is still with us. Please have your first, have your second jab if the vaccine you're using requires 2 jabs. And please also, let's perfect the soaps. COVID has never gone. Even if we open up, let's promote safe reopening of the economy. Have a lovely day. God bless you. See you tomorrow. I'll be leaving you with Ruben Mpima, take you through the world of sports. Stay safe. Terra is also with us. It's only vigilancy that we can